When we can no longer draw bows, when sinew has shrunk and bone gone brittle, we will hunt in our dreams, because hunting is part of our souls.
I'm over 80 years old now, and I've been doing this pretty much all my life. I honestly can't get enough of this. That's my first buck. Look at that. Long time ago. A lot of memories.
I think everybody needs to find a passion in their life. That's something they can take into their old age. Hunting with a bow and arrow, it's just me. It's who I am. Barry and I did not get into what we do now with any look into the future.
I just watched him go down. He's laying right over there. Thank you, Lord.
We've shot bows and arrows since we were kids and just never put our toys away. We had a hunting camp upstate New York. Barry and I, we were issued BB guns when we were little kids, and my dad taught us about hunter safety and guns. We had 22 rimfires when we were probably 8 years old. I remember we would get up in the morning, my mom would make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and roll it up in wax paper. They didn't have cellophane back in those days. This would be in the 50s. And I'd crumple it up like a little snowball and stick it in my front pocket. We left every morning, came back in time for supper, and we'd be gone all day, and they had no idea where we were or what happened, and we're just doing our thing. I was born with a hunting partner. Our nature is very inquisitive, and I keep asking myself, when I see something in the woods, why is this happening? Why is it this way? And then I'll say to Gene, what's your read on what I'm seeing? It's going this way, but you got that. It's almost like cheating. Line going it's like two heads better than one. You know, they're coming from both directions and kicking the dirt. I mean, the shot from here to there, you know, it'd be tough getting an arrow through there. But, you know, anyway, I like this stuff. We're twins. There's something special about that, obviously. And there was some competition between us, but we always got along.
I started shooting a bow when I was 6 or 7. We flung arrows, shot, killed every Tweety bird, everything we could that creep called or slithered around our house. We lived 3 miles out in the country. When I was first bow hunting, we had a 3-week season. We didn't have much of a season. And back then they had elk rifle season in most of the archery seasons, so it was just more or less kind of a deer season. And in 1961, the Fish and Game forgot archery season in Montana. I mean, just flat out forgot it.
I moved to Montana in 1971, ended up in the Bitterroot. There wasn't that many people hunting with bows in that time period in Montana, but those that did were what I call serious bow hunters.
Hit this, oh, I think I went through and hit the log.
You might have. Gene wasn't here very long, and Barry, and they got together and formed the MBA.
I don't know how I got Bob Savage's name, or he got mine, and he actually is the one that made me realize that this state needed a Bowhunters Association.
They got the ball rolling to start getting seasons. They gave us an award for having the best archery organization in the United States. And we just had a very strong interest in archery. And like I said, the compound people were starting to come in then, and they showed an interest too. I think within a couple of years of them forming it, they were going to the Fish and Game meetings. We were up to a 5-week season. The reason we have the seasons we have today are because Gene and Bob and Jerry.
And I've got a real setup for a tree stand here. The wind is coming a pretty good crosswind. The deer actually come out here in the evening with the wind at their backs. They don't have any choice.
Paul Bruner is a man whose life revolves around whitetail deer. He not only spent years learning the technique of patterning and hunting a specific buck, but also founded a company that supplies top-of-the-line outdoor products for the whitetail aficionado. Paul wrote the book Tree Stand Hunting, upon which this video is based.
That's photos. So the cattle, this must be, yep, here's one. We came out with a little catalog with stuff like really good wool clothing and so on. 2 years with a small catalog, we had a lot of clients. So we built a big catalog, and it went on for probably 8 years. We were seeing these videos that were horrible, gut shots, blood everywhere, and guys whooping and hollering, and it just wasn't the kind of thing I wanted to do. What I really wanted to do is have a good hunting video and explain how you hunt them and teach.
What a magnificent animal.
We ended up making 14 videos.
Man.
Elk, whitetails, tips, scouting techniques, you name it.
Oh man, that is a gorgeous buck.
I was hunting in Alaska. I carried the bow onto the plane in a sack. You know, you could do that. This guy sitting next to me said, "You been up hunting, huh?" Like, yep. He said, "I'm Gene Wensel." And yeah, never heard of him. And so I introduced myself and we just started shooting the breeze. He talked about whitetail hunting and how he loved it. And I liked him. He was just an interesting person. I said, "Well, you know, we've got a ranch up the Blackfoot. Why don't you come up and hunt with me sometime?" He said, "Can I bring my twin brother?" Sure. So they came up together the next weekend. And so we all started doing that every November. We always have fun together.
Let's accompany Gene on an early morning hunt in Montana's Bitterroot Valley. Gene had thoroughly scouted the area. He knew the deer would gather in a stand of cottonwoods before crossing the river to feed in an alfalfa field. His stand is placed so the deer would cross beneath it. He draws his bow when the buck drops his head. After hitting the buck, Gene waited for an hour before beginning to track him. Unfortunately, as is often the case in the mountains, a sudden snowstorm swept in and made tracking a difficult challenge. Through diligence and careful work, Gene was able to collect his trophy.
All right.
Gene Wensel, who lives in Montana's Bitterroot Valley, is an avid bow hunter and dedicated student of big whitetail bucks. His best buck, a 12x12 non-typical, scored a whopping 197 3/8 Pope and Young points. Gene has a book titled Hunting Rutting Whitetails and conducts numerous whitetail deer hunting seminars throughout the country.
You know, Gene's first book, when that first came out, it was unknown. And we had biology, deer, where'd you guys come up with this stuff? I mean, this is knowledge, you're right, you know. And then after the success of that book, I was approached about doing some videos. And I did it basically for the fact that it was fun, and I was hesitant. I wasn't going to do it. You know, I'll try it, and if I like it, fine, and if I don't, you know, I'm down the road. Well, the video thing was ahead of its time.
Bow hunting October whitetails. All deer footage was filmed in the wild. No parks or hunting preserves. Filming took place during hunting season under actual hunting conditions.
Once you've found through research the area you believe holds the best chance for a big buck, the next step is to locate the primary food source in that area. Once you've done that, you've found the deer.
You look at it nowadays, and a person has to realize that footage was taken in the early 1980s, you know, so you're talking, you know, pushing 50 years ago.
On the early morning hunt, your objective is to cut the deer off as they travel from their feeding grounds to their bedding grounds. Since you're letting the deer come to you, you want to place your tree stand as close to the bedding ground as possible.
I'm told I was the first one to shoot a deer on production video. I don't know if that's fact or not. And not only did I shoot one, I shot two, and both of those happened to be running shots.
You dog, you! All right.
The most important fact of that video was we were honest and we were having fun.
This is a running shot, huh?
Yeah.
How far?
22 yards, I think so.
How do you know it was 22?
I paced it off. I walked over. Well, look where it hit it. Right?
I know, perfect shot. One of
huh?
your usual and customary.
I was a good 2 inches off.
Oh, no, hold it. Whoa. You like that, don't you, Barry?
I like that a lot.
I couldn't see him behind the branch till he got right there.
And people would see that and look at these guys. I mean, I've had over the years, and like say 40, 50 years, I've had hundreds of guys say, you're the reason I started bow hunting, or you're the reason I started hunting at all. You know, I could see you guys were having a good time, you know, and we're laughing and joking and, you know, but it's still, when it came down to the hunting, we were very, very serious.
Your main objective is to pick the exact spot on that animal, on that target that you want to focus your entire attention to, right where you want your arrow to go. It's kind of like looking through a funnel where the focus of your attention just kind of zooms in and goes to that one spot. That's where you want your arrow to go. So you just pick one tiny little spot on that animal that you want your arrow to go into. Take a hair and try to split it.
Some videos were educational and other videos were more entertainment. The best are the ones where it's a happy medium, and that's the main reason we're out here, is to have a good time.
You pan over to the right there and you can see some of the game trails. Those are not just cow trails, and you walk out and you can see the different variety of tracks. And in fact, if you pan right over to the right over here, you'll see in fact, there's a fork in the trail right there. I hate that. When you come to a fork in the trail, you never know which way to turn. I'm going to attempt to lift 4,000 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. No belts, no nothing. Oh.
Unbelievable.
Gene is crazy. I mean, it's not a bad crazy. It's a good crazy. He's crazy.
This new product on the market, I'm sure you've heard about other uses of it. Within a few minutes, you can turn a 45-pound bow into a 65-pound static recurve, spit them out over 200 feet a second.
And Barry is nowhere near that crazy. But when the two of them are together, oh, it's a circus.
What the hell's so funny, Barry? No, don't tell me, right where I'm standing, right? No. Look, you're always thinking dirty, man. Okay, I'll try to keep it cool. It was so easy when he wasn't here. Now that he's here, I can't hold it together. Hi, I'm Barry Wensel.
I'm Gene.
Shooting a bow and arrow is supposed to be fun. You gonna say anything, Gene?
You sound so fun. Shooting a bow and arrow is supposed to be fun. I mean, you didn't sound sincere. Shooting a bow and arrow is supposed to be fun. Seems like nowadays people either take themselves too seriously, they try too hard, or they don't try at all. It's not only a great hunting tool, great sport. What was the third one?
They have such a sense of humor, which I don't have. But these two, I mean...
And they're all true stories.
Oh, yeah, they're all true. Yeah, right.
Been there, done that.
They ad-lib a little bit.
So we're at the PBS convention. I was wearing my ostrich Paul Bond cowboy boots, and I went in one of the, stalls and closed it, and I'm pissing, and somebody comes in beside me on my right side.
I could see he had real high dollar ostrich skin cowboy boots. Something clicked in my head, and it just seemed like the thing to do, and I'm missing an opportunity here, so I kind of leaned over and started peeing on his right cowboy boot.
And all of a sudden I hear this pissing sound, and it's not right. And I look down, and he's pissing all over my cowboy boot on the right side.
And he started yelling and swearing, and I zipped up and went outside, and there was a group of guys standing there, and I said, "What's this guy that comes out?"
And I walked out, and the whole room blew up.
But he came out, and his right cowboy boot was the color of a Hershey's chocolate bar, and the left one was very light tan.
These guys are just insane.
Plain old Bear Razorhead.
Is that special?
Well, Fred Bear sent Bob Savage 6 of them when he first developed the bleeders in him. And he said, "Hey, check these out. What do you think of these?" And Bob's got the 6, and he decided that I could maybe have one of them.
All right. This is the original?
Yeah, that's the original. Fred sent this to Bob and said, "Check this out."
Can you prove that, though?
Well, from Bob, that's what I got. I don't have it in writing. You guys started, sending books and stuff and signing them off to me. And I was like, holy cow, this is crazy. And I remember quizzing my dad when I was young, being like, "So you know the guys that write these books?" And they put my name on them. And it was, a really big deal to me. Back in the film camera days, when I was young and the envelopes would start coming in December, you would mail Scott pictures, my dad. And then the pictures would come in from Barry. And you're opening up the envelopes, because long-distance phone calls were expensive back then. You guys didn't talk, and you weren't FaceTiming, and you weren't texting. But all that coming in, and I would look, and I would marvel at the deer that you guys shot. And then you guys just kept going on. You started making the old VHS tapes. I've got them over there in the corner. And watching them, being like, wow, look what you guys are doing. You're having the time of your life, on these great VHS tapes. And then came the speaking engagements and your whitetail tours. It was like, you guys are everything whitetail, and I tried to suck up every bit I could as a dorky pimple-faced kid trying to figure out what to do. I just took it with me, and I still take it with me.
Before I'd ever even started whitetail hunting, I looked at the whitetail and they seemed cool, you know, but then when I started to hunt them, it was like, wow, you know, it's so superior, the challenge. We lived in Montana, you know, for 30 years, and we had 10 species. I mean, you know, moose, sheep, goat, antelope, mountain lion, you know, whitetails, muleys, that were available to hunt. With 10 species there, you know, we spent 80 or 90% of our hunting hours pursuing whitetails. They're the most civilized wild animal there is. They're so adaptable. I mean, their ability to evade pursuit or predators, it's like nothing on earth. That's what makes them whitetails.
One of my favorite minutes in the Pope and Young was at the Pope and Young banquet, the 50th anniversary at Minneapolis. Everything was done and people had gone off the main stage. And I'm just walking over to look at animals. And Gene comes walking by right then. And the funnest part about that, there ended up being like 25 or 30 of us there, just bullshitting up there on the stage, sitting there. And the funnest part about the whole thing was, I mean, the group of people there are, to me, the who's who. They're the best bow hunters in the world. They're not all the professional hunters. They're the true bow hunters. And everybody's story there was about the one that got away.
I have the most profound respect for a big mature whitetail buck as far as the difficulty in hunting and killing that deer. There's not a other animal that I would even put on my list.
When proper scouting has been completed, an analysis of the movement pattern should allow an accurate prediction of where and how the buck travels. With an ambush site in mind, a quiet approach to the location should be made, and here, one must avoid getting too close to the bedding area.
When I first started, there were a lot of states that didn't have whitetails. A lot of the Midwestern states, they never had deer. And you could see in the record book, Boone and Crockett book, when it exploded in the record book was when those states started opening a season that hadn't been open in the whole state. We got the magazine started and we launched it. When we came out with that, the first issue, we outsold in subscribers anybody that had a deer magazine ever. Then the show circuit really heated up, and I'd usually be speaking at these bigger sports shows.
Mr. Dick Idle, let's hear it for him.
Thank you, Paul. I don't know if I deserve that illustrious introduction or not, but it's been my experience over the years. The more I learn about whitetails, the more I realize I underestimated them in the past.
You know, a lot of these shows, you know, some of them would have 50,000, 100,000 people at the show over 5 or 7 days. Bass fishing and whitetail were the two most popular activities at the time. A lot of the guys that were my pals and some of the ones I looked up to, people like Gene and Barry Wensel, we all talked to each other, we saw each other at shows. They've had their seminar schedule. I had mine.
I'm no stuff. I'm just a redneck. I'm just like all you guys. And feel free to interrupt me if you got any questions. We're going to have two microphones going here so Gene can interrupt me and I can interrupt him. And welcome to Gene and Barry's bake sale.
Which one's louder?
This is going to be kind of informal. Because this kid's here, we're going to have to keep it PG-13. You know, I've written books and I do seminars on whitetail deer all the time. And the first thing I tell people, as far as big bucks are concerned, as far as those big racks are concerned, how you hunt deer, and if you don't remember anything else we say in the whole seminar, so far I haven't told you anything, we've taught you anything. Anyway, if you don't remember anything, remember this. As far as big bucks, big antlers are concerned, how you hunt whitetail deer is not nearly as important as where you hunt. We are going to close this by showing you the Ramblin' Rednecks, our answer to the anti-hunters who continually harass us. This, you've probably heard of the hunter's moon. Well, this is our answer to the hunter's moon. Before I get back on the scouting thing, another misconception here. A lot of people will come to my seminars and listen to me, and they'll sit out in the audience and they'll say, hey, Wensel's telling me 99% of what he knows, but he ain't telling me the big one, the big secret, and there is no such a thing, A lot of times, a guy will come up to me, or I'll leave a little scenario here. A guy will say, I'm hunting this big non-typical. I've been hunting them for 3 years now. I see him 2-3 times a year, and I haven't killed him yet. What am I doing wrong? And a lot of times, most of the time, the guy isn't doing a damn thing wrong. It just hasn't happened yet, especially when you have a bow and arrow in your hand. If you're seeing a big non-typical 2-3 times a year, you're doing something very right, A lot of times you only see them big bucks once in a lifetime, so to speak,
These two guys have shared so much information. Barry especially was good about teaching me stuff. Barry can walk into the woods, see a tree, and he'll know he can take a big buck there.
And I think I broke a lot of hearts, especially to some of the traditional guys, when I said I consider myself more of a whitetail hunter than I do a bow hunter. I had guys think that I didn't like or I didn't care for guys because he shoots a compound or whatever. I could care less what the next guy shoots. I strictly hunt with bows, but the main reason I'm hunting with bows is because of the old Fred Bear type of thing. You can get to hunt 2 seasons. And the hunting took priority over what weapon. I just shot Hurley, the buck I've been after for years. Today's November 1st, 2011. He hit the scrape at 19 yards, maybe. I got a complete pass through the arrow.
I rate them as the 2 best whitetail hunters alive. And I've been with them enough to know that I'm not wrong in saying that. The 2 of them together were just an amazing couple. And hunt, oh my gosh, they've killed some monster whitetails.
there's no thrill like seeing one of those in the wild for real. I'm talking about a Boone and Crockett deer.
It's a crop, and you don't pick the fruit before it gets ripe. That's the only way I look at it anymore. If a deer's rack makes Boone and Crockett, or, way up, 160, 170 inches, he's not any smarter than a 5 or 6 year old buck that scores 125. It's just, that's genetics, that's what the Lord gave him. I was somewhere around 11 years old. And like I said, we had a hunting camp upstate New York. That day I had a .22 rimfire, and I was hunting groundhogs. And I was probably at least half a mile, 3/4 of a mile from camp, and I was alone. And I went up on this ridge, and I was at this spot, and it was a big, and I can't remember if it was a maple tree or an oak tree or what kind of tree it was, but it was a very unique tree. And I sat there with my .22 just looking. All of a sudden, something came over me. And I sit there and I looked, and I said to myself, there is no way that this wasn't created. And I sat there, and I don't remember if I cried or I got choked up, but I never told anybody about it. And I'd gone to church. Our parents took us to church very regularly. But I was 11 years old, and I realized that, hey, God is real. He's there, and he's there for me, and he's there for everybody. I shot my first whitetail within 50 yards of that tree. At whatever age I was, 14 or 15 or somewhere in there, right there, next to that tree, next to that spot.
We all want to see the tradition of hunting kept alive because it's a good environment to raise kids in, and they get to learn something about the outdoors.
That's what the Wensels are doing. If you have the ability to take the kind of animals that we all have, you need to share it with the up-and-coming people.
They've kept the traditional spirit alive with everything they've done. They've made a lot of people a whole lot better bow hunters. Their traditional attitude and getting close and the 10 to 15 yard shot and the woodsmanship part and all that, they've taught so many people that.
I'll get notes from some guy I never heard of, and he'll say, thank you for the knowledge, that last article you wrote, you changed my life. That's great and stuff, but I want him to turn around and teach his kids and hand it down. One of my good friends said to me, he says, what do you want to be remembered like when you pass? And I said, I'd probably want to be remembered as 6 foot and 170 pounds, type of thing. And I guarantee I'm not 6 foot and I'm not 170 pounds. I want to be remembered as a guy who is willing and went out of his way to share my knowledge with those who just haven't experienced what I've experienced. You share that with the next generation in hopes that they will go out and pick up where I left off and continue from there and learn something, and then most importantly, share it with those who want to know and who are trying to learn. Because if we don't, we're going to lose it.
They're full-time deer, we're part-time hunters. We're trying to put the pieces together, and you did pioneer a lot of those pieces, and all of us knuckleheads that were out there trying to do the same thing, grabbed onto it, and you paved the way for a lot of really cool stuff.
I didn't realize I was doing that, or we were doing that. You know, it's just kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it just, it's what we did.
That's part of the thing that I think is so cool. If somebody is out there trying to push something on purpose, the agenda is in the wrong place. You guys were doing something because you absolutely loved it, and you were willing to share the thoughts, the ideas, everything out there.
And I'm just a regular guy. There's people that think Gene and I walk on water, you know, and like Roger said, yeah, I can too if it's cold enough, you know. I want people to think that I was a good father, good husband, good hunter, you know, whatever. That's not nearly as important as just being a good human being, leading my life the way I thought it should be led, and holding true all the way to the end. I feel like I've led a very blessed life, and I want people to know that my way isn't necessarily the only way, but for me, it's worked out just fine. Even after more than 80 years on this earth, we're still evolving as hunters. Constantly searching for better ways to spend more time in the woods. We're students of the white-tailed deer, always adapting, always sharpening our skills. The pursuit of whitetails is one of the greatest journeys of my entire life. It shaped who I am, tested my patience, and deepened my appreciation for the land and the animals I share them with. And make no mistake, we're not slowing down. Not now, not ever.